All right. So we will call to order the September 22nd, 2021 quarterly board meeting for Development Chenango Corporation. First item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from June 23rd. Any comments or questions on those? If not, could we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion. This is Mary.
Thank you, Mary. How about a second?
I'll second. This is Melissa.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Might be easy virtually. Any opposed? All right, so that carries and we can move right on down the agenda. Finance Committee. So we have now the meeting minutes for the Finance Committee from June 17th. Any comments or questions on these? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion. This is Mary.
Thank you again. How about a second?
I'll second. It's Marty.
All right, Marty, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that one will carry as well. So now we are moving into the financial report and investment. Carrie, you taking this one back over?
Yeah, I can. So this is just a review and to answer any questions. Finance Committee approved this at our meeting on Monday. There were just a few things I wanted to highlight, and then if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Let me pull them up real quick. That's tiny. So I just wanted to make note of our receivable loans under BAL for just under $500,000. We have just under $200,000 in our ag loan fund sitting in there, which we have total receivable loans of $722,000. We've had a pretty aggressive loan portfolio the last couple of years, so it's good to see the progress that we've been making. In terms of our long-term assets, we're just over $2 million in terms of our long-term assets. Under other assets, you'll see the building 1719 South Broad, which is sitting here. We will talk about this a little bit later in the agenda about what's happening with that building. That's the building Creative Works that's next door to where we are right now. Our total assets are just over $3.3 million. Sorry, I'm scrolling. So I just want to make note about some of our loan programs. You'll see the notes at the bottom that some of these are not current per this report. As of about a week ago, all of our loans are current. There was, it's a combination of turnover of staff, not having the paperwork that we were supposed to have, and having some of those checks and balances in place. All of these loans have been brought up to date, not the old loans, not Maynard and Prosky, which we're going to talk about, but I do have the agreement with Hidden Springs. They did finally get back to me with that, and so that's started. Every other loan is back online. The only other hiccup, which has been addressed, and you won't see it in here, is that the loan that we did to Michael Croce for the Sherwood, he changed the bank account, and I did not know that. So we got a payment, we got it back that the account was closed. I've since gotten that information from him and updated it. Shout out to MBT support. They spent some time with me on the phone yesterday because there was still something with the ACH program that I wasn't doing right, and they called me and walked me through it and answered my dumb questions and made sure that I knew exactly what to do. So just figuring out that system. But all of our loans, these loans are current. You'll see that in our next financial report, and we'll talk more about some of the changes that we're making in terms of loan oversight a little bit later in the meeting. Let's see. The only other thing I wanted to point out is, sorry, it's a little smaller. Oh, wait, I'm gonna go back up one. So we have this outstanding aged payable for SureTemp. You might be wondering why it's over 90 days. We generally don't not pay our bills 90 days out. They billed us for something I felt like they really shouldn't have. They do a normal service visit with us, and they didn't call to schedule. They just showed up, and I don't know if we were out or it's rare that nobody's here, but the door was locked or something. And so they left, but then still charged us for the visit. without scheduling it ahead of time, without making sure that we were going to be here or any of that. And I just didn't, and it's supposed to be part of our service agreement. And I didn't feel like that was something that we should have to pay for. So I'm going back and forth with them on this. Obviously, I don't want to put DCC in arrears with anybody, and I'm going to try to get this reversed with them and get a credit. But that's why this is outstanding. So generally, we don't wait this long to pay bills. I just wanted you to know why I'm sort of digging my heels in about this a little bit. And then I wanted to draw your attention to the number 2 fees earned IDA projects right here. So this is per our administrative services agreement that DCC has with the IDA. We get 25% of any special projects that go through the IDA, and that's to help cover all the additional staff time between myself and the Carrie Ann or the person in her position. You know, these IDA projects take a lot of time and a lot of resources. So this is a way to kind of give back to DCC to help pay for some of that. So it's part of our administrative services agreement. I don't see that changing. We are bringing in much more than we expected based on last year. We didn't know the projects would be closing when they were. So we do the best to, you know, project these for the year, but this is a good thing. We've realized some additional revenue that we weren't expecting. I also expect this to keep increasing. We have another project in Coventry that should be closing this calendar year. And then we have the High Bridge Wind project in Guilford that if that closes, that will be another bump next year. So definitely as we're starting to look at our budget for 2022, seeing that we are getting this additional revenue and where can we best put it and how can we best, you know, continue our job of helping with economic development and accounting. So this is a good thing. It's a good problem to have. But I just wanted to draw your attention to that and let you know why it was so much more. When we did the budget, we only had one program that we thought was going to close. And as the year went on, we're getting more, excuse me, more and more of these pilot applications. So anybody have a question about the administrative services agreement and how that works? Okay. Oh, sorry, right here. So under capital project activity, this is the purchase of the former SUNY Morrisville building. So this is everything. This is the surveys that we had done, the insurance, the inspection, the purchase of the property, legal fees. That's all of this is right here. So that's where you're seeing this. And again, we'll have to, moving into 2022, we'll have to make sure we budget some money in terms of repairs and upgrades. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later on in the agenda. And then we had our investment summary. Also, the Finance Committee did get a overview of our investment portfolio from Aidan Hannon. He gave a short presentation about our investment portfolio and also talked with us about the MBT investment policy and a few slight changes they were making to that. So that also happened at the finance meeting. And that's it, unless you have any questions. And Jen, it's nothing that needs to be approved.
I was just going to ask you that. So that brings us down to new loan applications, the discussion on that.
Yep. So during the Finance Committee meeting, we have 2 loan applications that we are currently looking at. One is for Forge Brewing. They're looking for $50,000 to expand their site. If you haven't been there yet, it's a very cool place. It's on Route 41 on your way between Coventry and Afton. Very cool place. And also the Chenango Greenway is looking for a $50,000 loan to help cover the balance of what they need for the project over at the Stone Quarry and their Greenway project. We knew going into the project that we just completed in terms of purchasing the building that we were pretty much draining our cash on hand. You know, we didn't have to dip into our investment account to do that. We had that money sitting in between our loan and with cash on hand. So now we're at a situation where if we want to approve these loans, and the Finance Committee talked about the value of both of these, and you know, we would like to be able to do something if we felt like the project was viable. If we're going to do that, we're going to have to take a draw from our investment account. After talking with Aidan, we have about $1.6 million in that investment account. And Marty, I don't know if you want to kick off this conversation about, you know, what we discussed between you and Jen, if you want to talk about this a little bit more.
Sure. So, I mean, we definitely talked about the viability of the applications, and, you know, in my review of them, I I'm definitely not opposed to them. I wasn't sure, the appetite for the board to liquidate investments. Jen made a very good point about, this is what we do. And if there's viable and worthy applications, then, the feeling is that, we should be open to liquidate some of that money that we have in our investments, because this is what we do. So, and I'm definitely open to that as well. So, and in reviewing them, they are, in my opinion, good applications, good, reasons to do them, definitely from our perspective.
I'm
Yeah.
biased, but we also have our revolving loan fund at the county in our office too. So if you don't want to do that, there is a potential that they could go through our loan application, which is very similar to yours because the DCC or the finance committee is our loan review committee as well. So just keep that in mind too.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I think Carrie was going to look at some other options as well, whether these could flow through Streetick, I believe. And, I guess it's just maybe a broader question. We didn't approve these two loans. There were still, some pieces that we needed. I think just based on what we had so far, they both look like good applications and things that make sense. But I guess from a broader view, just wanted the kind of the board's thoughts on the investment account, having to liquidate that. Should we, if we decide to do these and there is no other option or no other fund, liquidate enough for these projects, liquidate enough so we have some cash available should other projects come throughout the year. My feeling was just because we decided to purchase the building and use our available cash, to me, that is absolutely no reason to turn down good loan opportunities. That was our choice. And maybe the offset to that is we have to liquidate some of the investment to do that. But that was the risk we took buying the building and using the cash, is we might not have had a loan application for 6 months, or we might have had a whole bunch of them. So I think it's just, we will look for other opportunities first, maybe, and just kind of exhaust those other avenues. But if those avenues, kind of don't pan out, are we comfortable liquidating investments to keep moving forward, whether it's these loans or others? And do you feel like there should be a certain level of cash sitting there, or should we be coming back to the board every time? We don't want to take a $50,000 draw for one loan, have to go back and have 8 and take another $50,000 draw, take another 25, 3 months from now, should there be some available cash? So maybe more of a broader discussion on what everybody feels comfortable with there. Did I miss anything, Carrie?
One question I'd have is what is our interest, or what kind of revenues are we making off of those accounts versus what would we be bringing in on those loans? Would it be, what's the difference between that?
We usually do 75% of prime. So we charge 2.44% interest. We also make a little money on closing fees. So we charge a 5% closing cost to help cover sort of admin. So depending on the size of the loan, it really can vary based on that. I think for these loans, it's a few $1,000s that we make on the interest, and then another $1,500 on closing. So maybe $4,000 or $5,000 on these.
We're probably making more in our investments is
Yeah.
probably the real answer. But
and if we have other avenues to go through, I can talk to Shane about his process. I can talk to Streetick. It's this, do we pass it off to somebody else because they have the opportunity and we're the last resort? With these, it's kind of this, we're taking care of our own people. I don't want to draw the process out too much longer. Like Shane, I don't know how long your process takes, so maybe we can talk offline about that. But if these are something that, knowing the finance committee is somewhat supportive, kind of moving it off to somebody like the county to see if that would work,
I feel like our purpose as an organization is to support projects like this in our community. And while we may be making more on our investment account than we would on these loans, what's the benefit to our community of those funds sitting in our investment account and not at work in the community?
right?
I agree with Melissa on that as well. This is Mary.
Yeah, and I think, as a broader discussion, I'd like for us as a board to discuss our appetite to maybe, do we, like Jen had proposed or put out there, do we maybe, keep some to have on hand? Do we not? Do we go back to Aiden and NBT when we see a viable project? Kind of what our, what our perspective is on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend us taking a whole chunk of cash out and just sitting on it with nothing in mind. But if we decide to move forward with these and we're going to use our funds, do we just take the 100, or maybe do we take 150 or a little bit more so that there's another application? I mean, to that point, there's probably not too much of a cost or a process to liquidate funds. We could go back and have Aiden do that as needed. I don't know the specific process. That's not my spot in the bank, but I can't believe it takes more than a couple days, and we would certainly know that the cash need was coming, ahead of time as it was going through the application process.
One option might be we could, the board right now could make a resolution that if the finance committee approves these loans, because we have to come back and take a closer look. We didn't get too deep into them because we're like, well, we don't have the money. We didn't want to vet it too deeply other than just a general overview. So the board could make a recommendation that if pending the finance committee's, approval of these, to go ahead and withdraw the funds as needed to cover these loans. But then now that we're looking at the 2022 budget, that can be a line item in our budget that we're going to allocate X amount of money for 2022 for loans. And we can take a look at what we've done for the last couple of years and take care of all of that at the budget meeting. So at least we have a plan for next year. We can cover these if another one comes in. I don't have any current applications out there, but these sort of came out of the blue too all at once. So I think we could address these now and then make a plan for 2022 and make an additional draw, or at least maybe not make the draw, but say, okay, the board is saying we're going to designate $250,000 for 2022 for loans, draw out as needed. That way we don't have to keep coming back to you. But we can worry about
I don't think it's that. Well, I mean, I'm happy to make a motion about, if these loans are approved, that we liquidate investments in order to be able to make that loan. I don't think if you talk to Aiden, I don't think it's really going to be an issue. I mean, it's not like it's every week that these opportunities are coming up. So once a quarter or something like that, that's not going to be an issue, I don't think, on their part.
Yep, agreed.
Now, is there a fee to liquidate these funds? Do we know?
You mean like a penalty for taking it out?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't.
Yeah, and that's what I wasn't sure of, and that was my only thought of not wanting to do it too frequently.
Yeah.
I definitely think we need to check that with Aiden just to see the process. If it's not, then to me, draws.
Yeah, if it's not, but if they're charging at 10% every time you do it or something like that,
Yeah, I can confirm that.
So does it make sense to maybe look for a motion to at least have the ability to draw the funds, the 100,000 for these two loans? Should we look at other avenues and exhaust them and decide to approve them and want to fund using our funds? Look for the board to give the finance committee the authority to authorize Aiden to do that. And then to Carrie's point, we'll worry about other loans in 2020. Once we have more information, we can build it into the budget. We can understand if there's a fee associated with it.
That sounds good.
Did somebody write down that really long-winded, not very formal motion?
We'll clean it up. Can I just clarify, I heard sort of two things out there. One was that we're going to look at other avenues first, and then we're going to look at them internally. And somebody else said we should just take care of them because we have the money to do it. So I just want clear direction. Do you want me to go other places first and we're a last resort, or do you want finance to take a look at them?
I think finance should take a look at them. I mean, this is, as I said, like, I feel this is our purpose as an organization.
Okay.
Yeah,
There may be
Carrie,
ways-
maybe it's just exploring other avenues, just so we know what's there, you know, maybe understanding the county's process, just knowing what else is out there should another one pop up. But, you know, I kind of agree. I don't know that we want to put these applications through a second application process with somebody else if we don't have to, just from a timing standpoint.
I agree.
I would
Okay.
agree with that as well.
All right. So it's resolved to authorize me to liquidate funds as needed for the 2 pending loan applications pending finance approval. Okay. Sorry if somebody wants to do that. That's not me making the motion.
I'll
right.
make a motion to do what Jen Teleski said.
And then what Carrie said better.
Thanks, Mary.
How about a second?
I'll second. This is Marty.
Thank you, Marty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, so we'll carry that one and let's just, you know, follow up with Aiden and make sure we understand, you know, the liquidation process and what goes into that. So we have
Okay.
that for
Thank you
when we
very
plan
much.
for 2022.
Okay, thank you. We'll pull a finance committee meeting together and we'll do a deeper dive into the loans before we do that. Thank you, everybody.
So are we at cleaning up loans now, or I think you touched
Yeah.
on that a little. I'll let
Yeah, I
you
did.
take back over.
Yeah, probably the only other thing we just need to do, and this does require board action because we're changing the terms of a loan, is we've been in this conversation with the Dunlaps, who currently have 2 different loans for the Sherwood project. One is about $75,000, one was about $35,000 that was left. Rather than having 2 separate loan payments, and they were looking to combine them into one. So we had Kathy Joe do a amortization schedule. You received it in your packet. This just sort of shows where they're at. If we were to combine the loans, it would extend it to the end of the loan would be 2026, which is what one of the loans was already, but making it one combined payment versus 2. Finance took a look at this. They were, you know, I believe they were agreeable to this, but because we're changing the terms of loan and the amount of money, this does require board action, and then we'll send them paperwork to update this new agreement. But just wanted to put to you. Oh, and she also wanted to make sure that there was no payment for paying early. And you know, all of our loans have that in there, that, you know, there's no penalty for paying early. So I don't know if maybe they think they'll have funds soon to pay off the loan, but we will make sure that that's a part of this as well.
Are these the current owners of the Sherwood, or is this the previous owners of the Sherwood?
Good question. So it's the previous owners, but they retained ownership of the building. They're currently leasing the building to Michael Croce, who also has a loan with us for the actual running of it, but they retained ownership of the building.
Yeah, I guess, Carrie, I'll just maybe pipe in to say that, you know, these loans don't always pan out as expected. And I think we try to do whatever we can to make sure we get repayment going forward. And I think consolidating and re-amortizing this just seemed to make sense. Obviously, that property, there's been some struggles with keeping it open and operating, and you know, I think this is just an accommodation to try and help keep it moving forward, I guess. There didn't seem to be a better alternative.
Agreed. I mean, anything that we'd rather get paid, even if we have to kind of modify the terms of the original agreement. And if this makes it a more viable payment arrangement, then I'm in support of it.
So I guess with that, we'll just look for a formal motion to approve the consolidation modification.
I'll make a motion. This is Marty.
This is Shane.
Can we take that as a first and a second, Marty and Shane? All right, all in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that one is taken care of as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. So The final thing under the loans is we have two outstanding loans that are still sitting in there. The Maynard loan and the Prosky loan. The Maynard loan dates back to 2013 and the Prosky was early 2019. I don't know much about the Maynard loan. That was before my time. I think some of you were probably still on the board when we did that. My understanding is they've never made an attempt to pay, or at least at some point they stopped making payments. There's a balance sitting out there. If we are going to write this off, we need formal board action to do so. And then that means that our accountant, our bookkeeper will be sending them a 1096, I think it is, to show that they had income that they basically never paid taxes on because they defaulted on the loan. I don't know at this point if the Maynard loan we want to just be done with. Like I said, I don't really have a lot of experience with this one. I'm not really sure what the issues were back when this loan was given, but it's been almost 10 years that it's been sitting out there. The Prosky loan is a little bit different. I have had contact with them. This was the loan, if you remember, I went back and forth for a while because they said that it was a grant, not a loan. And I had to say, well, I have signed loan paperwork. This was a loan that you were taking on. And well, my handler, whoever their finance person is, said it was a grant and blah, blah, blah. And then this issue was because the money was supposed to be taken out of milk checks. And so this was right around the time I was starting. I remember Alex was going to Dean Foods to try to get the milk check payments. Come to find out Dean Foods was going through bankruptcy. So we kept getting notices back about bankruptcy. At our finance meeting on Monday, though, Sheila told me that another American Dairy or something took over Dean Foods and that she was going to send us some contact information to try to start doing this milk check payment again. I think we don't care as long as we start, not that we don't care, but as long as we start getting payments again. But if that happens, we're going to have to redo their loan agreement because it's, you know, they haven't made one payment since they got this money from us. So I guess I just wanted to update you on those and just sort of ask the board how you'd like me to proceed. I think we may still have an opportunity with the Prosky, but I'd like to still pursue that. I don't want to give up on it yet. The Maynard loan, like I said, I don't really have any, I don't know enough about it to have any opinion about it. I don't know what happened with it. I don't know if they closed or if somebody passed away or what that situation is, but it may be time to write that one off.
Have we sent any friendly letters from our new attorneys?
No.
I know from experience here, we've done that before, and usually letters from attorneys get people to kind of start moving on something. But it might be worth trying that first as a first option before we try and write it off.
For Maynard, you mean?
Carrie, just out of curiosity, do you know what the Maynard loan was for originally? Sorry.
I might have their folder. No, I might have their folder right here.
I'm just trying to remember.
I'm trying to do the same thing. I feel like if I hear the details, it might remind me, and I feel like I should know this, but I also don't.
I might have been on the.
It's 27. They must have paid something on it. I think the balance is just over 20, so almost $28,000 is what they owe. I don't know what it was for. We can pull out that. We can pull out the folder though and check.
I was just curious if it. I've been on the board on and off, and I just was wondering if it would ring any bells. But ultimately, it's almost a moot point if they're not paying on it, I suppose.
I'm just going to look up online on our files quick and see if I can find a file. No, it was called something else. I can pull their file and let you know, Ken.
I agree with
Okay.
Shane. I mean, we could do one last attempt, maybe have an attorney send a letter. It'd probably be, you know, very easy and cost effective to have somebody just send one thing. And then if we still really get no response, you know, maybe end of year, we look to write it off. Because I agree, 2013, that one's probably a pretty lost cause. The 2019 one, I think we should pursue a little bit longer. That's too recent to just write off at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, we can have our attorneys do a demand for payment letter.
So do you think we have to have people videotape when they sign and everything saying, I understand this is a loan versus a grant. I owe money. I will pay money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened. That wasn't the loan I was a part of. I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's a little funny to me that somebody would think that, but I think that they're older too, and maybe they didn't really understand. I don't know. And because it was going through the milk check thing, maybe they didn't quite understand. I don't know.
Is this the Proskin farm, meaning the one where they just had a death in the family? The mother, I think it was the mother just passed away. Like
I think so.
Marilyn Oliver's parents, or?
I don't think it's the same. I think it's a different family.
Okay.
For some reason, I was thinking it was different.
Is it Phil and Lisa Proskin?
That folder I have. Let me-
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's a good question. This is my lesson in preparation. I've got their stuff right here. Philip and Lisa.
Okay, so I know a little bit about the history of this, just not to take up a lot of time. So Phil and Lisa had gotten a loan prior to this one to purchase cows. They were one of the first recipients of the revolving loan fund. And so that worked out for them. They bought a bunch of cows, they paid it off through their milk check, and it was a time of increasing milk prices, and it worked out very well. Not to speak for Phil and Lisa, but they had a loan exactly like this. That's why they came back to Development Chenango for a second loan. So the idea that it was a grant is a little bit of a head scratcher for me, because this wasn't their first rodeo, so to speak. They'd done the exact same thing before. They'd had a loan and paid it off. So anyway, I think that, knowing them, that I think that if it can be set up so that it gets, the way that it was designed was that it just automatically came out of their milk check. And so if that could be somehow established, I think that there is hope to get payment on that one. I don't remember why there was a challenge. Do you know, Carrie, why that mechanism didn't work this time around? Was that before your time, or how did that work?
Well, that was right when I started. It was because Dean Foods declared bankruptcy. So
right.
Yeah,
Right.
we were like giving payment requests to them, and even though, because they were the pass-through.
Okay, yeah, because I remember vaguely like trying to make a connection for you or Steve with Dean Food, and as they were kind of going out of business. And so who is now the cooperative that's picking up the Proskin's milk? Do we know?
I think Sheila said American Dairy. I might be saying it wrong. Shane, you nodded your head before. Do you know, is that right? American Dairy, something like that.
I think it's DFA, Dairy Farmers of America.
Okay, Dairy Farmers of America.
I was close.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
And so, so if there's any way, I mean, I did help with both of these loans just in terms of facilitation, Carrie, of making the connection to the cooperative. And so don't hesitate if I can be of any help to make the connection to the cooperative to see what we need to do. As I recall, there was a form that we had to fill out for Dean Food so that payment could be deducted from the milk check. So I would assume that there's a similar form for DFA, and I think with the lawyer's help that we can get that form completed so that the Proskins are paying on this loan. So anyway, that's that one.
That would be helpful. I don't have a contact there. So Sheila was going to send me something, but she hasn't yet. See, I have the assignment authorization was what we had for Dean Foods, and it was supposed to start December 1st of 2019. And it just never happened because of when they declared bankruptcy. So yeah, if you can send me any contact information, that would be great.
Well, so if you can send me an email reminder, Carrie, because that just helps me not forget it when I get into the maelstrom of my office. And I will contact Dairy Farmers of America and see what they will have a form, I'm sure, for like a draw on the milk check, and then combined with maybe some incentive from a lawyer's letter can probably get this on track.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Okay. Good at solving problems. Awesome. Okay. Any other discussion on that? Okay, thank you. We'll get a legal letter put together for Maynard then, and we'll, with Ken's help, we'll see if we can get this milk check started back up again for Preston. Great.
We down to the economic development report at this
Yeah.
point?
So you probably have seen her on here. Carrie Ann O'Connor is our economic development assistant. She started about a month ago. So she put together this economic development report for you, just kind of to show you the things that she's been working on since she's been here. A lot of training, a lot of reading, a lot of research, learning as we go in this position. So we are looking at training certifications that she may need, like the ABO certification. There's an economic development council certification that or training that is open to her. And we're also looking at an IDA Academy sometime in the next few months that EDC puts up. So we will be working to slowly get her trained and up to date on everything she needs to support the work that we do here. She had a meeting just yesterday with somebody who's looking to start a berry farm, U-pick sort of place in McDonough. So she's walking through that process with her first person. And, you know, this person's very new in the process. So, you know, what's ways to go in the business plan, what you need to think about, trying to help them find some resources. Actually, Ken, we were going to connect them to you as well, because this is a agriculture based business that she's looking to do. And we thought your office may be able to give her some resources that we don't know. So we will be making a connection to you for this person.
Is this,
Okay.
is this Berry Hill Farm?
You mean like the Berry Hill Tower place?
No, there's a farm that sells at the Oxford Farmers Market that's from that area that's, I think, called Berry Hill Farm. I just wasn't sure if it was the same.
I didn't, Carrie Angie, I don't think so.
No,
Okay.
at this time, they have not done any sales at all. They're really just in the initial stages of planning, so.
We've also been pretty busy on the IDA side of the house. That's been taking a lot of our time, a lot of Carrie Ann's time. We had a public hearing for another solar project in Coventry just a week or so ago. So really just trying to train her on all IDA and DCC things. Just a couple things to know on her report is Manufacturing Day is next Friday. And as such, we usually do things to promote and support our manufacturers. So Carrie Ann's working on a series of articles that are going to be going to the paper, hopefully. We're going to be highlighting some of our small manufacturers and also doing a feature on our Manufacturer of the Year, which was Chenango Valley Technology. So Carrie Ann's been doing interviews with a couple of our smaller manufacturers and excited to share that with the community. She's also looking to put together a little contest, something for kids. You know, we don't want to overwhelm her first manufacturing day, but we definitely want to make sure that we're noting it and supporting it and thanking this very important part of Chenango County. So that is next week. Also, not to be confused, if you start to see things about October 15th and this virtual manufacturing day, this is different than the actual manufacturing day. It was a little bit confusing. Manufacturing day is Friday, October 1st, but there's this, I think it's a statewide initiative. Carrie Ann, correct me if I'm wrong. It's a statewide initiative to promote and do virtual tours of manufacturing facilities because they didn't want to sort of shadow manufacturing day. They're doing it 2 weeks later. So if you see things for both, they're both correct. They're just doing them on different times. So I make you aware of that. And Carrie Ann's also doing a little work on our young professional program. This is something we've been talking about for a while, and she actually took a training that ACCE had about this, and working with Brianna from our office to see about doing something Chenango County based. Carrie, is there anything that you want to add to your report?
I think I really summarized most of it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, she's doing a great job. She still comes back, so that's a bonus. Okay. I think we've already talked about, oh, do you want to just keep going, Jen? Sorry. We've already talked pretty detail about the IDA and what we're doing there. A couple things I just want to know. We found out about 2 weeks ago that the IDA is going to be going through a state comptroller's office audit. It's been 18 years since the IDA has had a full audit by the comptroller's office. The IDA is audited just like DCC every year. Our finances are audited. We go through an audit process, we report to the ABO. The ABO is different than the comptroller's office though. They are not actually auditing our finances, they're auditing our processes. We had a meeting with them the afternoon of the 15th about what they were coming in to do, why they were doing it. The auditor's name is Alan Zimmerman. He's actually he's affiliated with our area, and I believe he's the one who did our audit 18 years ago. So he has a lot of things that he needs. This is kind of gummed up the works in terms of Carrie Ann and myself, because they actually came the next day to start. We didn't realize they were coming. He's like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. And we were both like, oh, okay. They had like a laundry list of things he needed. So we're doing the best we can to stay up with their requests. And again, it's about process. It's not really about financials. And we will get a report on their findings. And he said they like to just give recommendations, things that maybe aren't required. Some of them might be if we're doing something that's sort of out of statute, but just process recommendations to make sure that we're doing everything on the up and up. And because DCC is so closely aligned with the IDA, we just wanted to make you aware of that. Also, I believe the last meeting I talked to you about this idea that was brought to the IDA from Isaiah Sutton and John Camp to use the tracks for a rail bike. You've probably seen these in the Adirondacks, these rail bike 4-person things. Very, very cool idea. The IDA was definitely on board with trying to do something like this, especially with freight not currently running on the tracks. We've had a number of conversations with the railroad, and they are not against this idea. We feel like there's a schedule that could be worked out. It's going to take a lot of planning and coordination. Right now, Isaiah and John are taking a look at insurance and expenses, but they are hoping, if everything keeps going the way it is, we don't have a formal agreement in place yet, but this should start spring of 22, so that's pretty exciting. Any questions on that?
So keep going.
Okay, so I met with the county board last week, the Planning and Economic Development Committee, to do our budget requests for the year. It was a very long meeting, but it went very well. So at the end of the day, I won't worry with details, but at the end of the day, they did agree to restore all of our funding back to our 2020 numbers, which is what I asked. And I also asked for an increase, which they approved. I wasn't sure if they were going to do that. I sort of had this whole speech about getting made whole, and I didn't have to give it. So it went very well. In addition to that, Shane and I, so Shane is head of director of planning, as you know, we've been having these conversations for a long time about, the role of his staff and what he does, the role of Commerce Chenango, what we do in terms of economic development. We work together a lot on a lot of projects. And what is just a way to maybe look at those duties and what each of us is doing, and is there a better way to split up the work? One of the things we've been talking about for a while is the need for us to have additional support on the economic development side of the house. And I believe when we met back in June, we talked about, the economic development side of what we do is everything for DCC, everything for IDA. We do workforce development, we do business consulting and training and loans. It's a lot. And, a lot of that falls onto someone in Carrie Ann's position and myself, but mostly the administrative side on her. It's a lot of work. And because we've been so successful, and we've done such a good job to put ourselves out there, it's just gotten busier and busier. And we really need another person to help handle that load, especially with the Commerce Chenango strategic plan and what they're hoping that we do, and more of a force in terms of some of these things. So taking a look at what each of our offices does, it seemed like we were duplicating efforts a little bit. So one of the things that we asked for and was approved by planning, but has to be approved by finance, is there was a $35,000 allocation from Shane's budget that actually got moved into my budget, which will allow us to hire somebody else so that we can split up the duties of economic development and actually make a much stronger impact in terms of all the things that we're working on and doing. We've already started making some inroads in terms of coordination with the CDO Workforce Development Board. They actually just asked me to serve on that board, so that's a new thing for me. Getting involved with our local schools. There's a lot that we could be doing and should be doing, and there just aren't enough hours in a day. So we definitely wanted to continue on this path. So with that, nothing is final. We have our finance meeting on Friday. So we go give our budgets again, and then the board will hopefully approve this in the fall. But it definitely is we're going down the right track. And at least now that we know tentatively we have approval, we can really start delving into the DCC budget. With that, just wanted to let you know that. Any questions? Okay. Just a note on some of the advocacy work that we're doing. I'm not going to get into detail about any of them unless you have a question. I'd like to let you know some of the things that we're working on. The one thing I would like to highlight though is that our legislative breakfast is coming up on October 14th. It's going to be at the Silo Restaurant in Green. We're just confirming which elected officials are coming. We have confirmation from quite a few. We're just trying to finalize that list hopefully this week. But that's a great event. So hopefully you can come and you can register on our website. And you already know about Carrie Ann, so I won't share anything else with you unless you'd like to ask for anything. But. Okay. Under old business, the DRI application was submitted last week. Yay. September 15th, the application was due. I did have a REDIC meeting that Friday, and I did find out that there were only 4 applicants, and they have the potential of giving away 2 $10 million grants this year. So we have very, very strong chances of this. I know many of you on this board, and this was a DCC project. Many of you served on the DRI steering committee, so thank you again. It was a lot of work. Thankfully, we had started this process in 2020. So when we found out that the application was reopening, we didn't have a lot of catch up to do, and we were able to get the application submitted on time. So fingers crossed. After October 20th is when REDIC is meeting again. And so we should know where we stand in terms of how they rate us. I haven't received anything official from the council about what the process is. I don't know if the 20th they're making recommendations to the state, and then I believe we have to go give a presentation. So still waiting on some of those final details, but I feel really good about our application. I feel like we have a really strong chance. I know we have a lot of support from the council, from our friends at Empire State Development. So we'll see. We even got a letter of support from Senator Schumer, which I thought was interesting. Normally, at first they said no, because they said they couldn't throw their weight behind one project, and then they came back and said that they'd be happy to submit a letter. So I thought that was interesting. Any questions on the DRI? Update just on the hotel project. So we did close, yay again, that we did close on the 25th. I'll say 25th-ish. We were still waiting for paperwork to get finalized, and there was an issue with a rent check for in motion, but that all got worked out. But the 25th is the date that I'm using. Today, I have a meeting with Donna Howell from Empire State Development. They're very interested in this project, and she's coming to Chenango County, having meetings here today, and she wants to see the building. So I'm actually going over to give her a tour at 11 o'clock. Shane is coming. I guess I don't know if any of you want to see the building. I hadn't meant it to be like a, hey, everybody come, but if you'd like to come see it, you're welcome to join us. 11 o'clock, we're giving her a tour of the building. So they're very interested in that project and want to see how they can help us with that. We're moving forward with our plans, our campaign plans. Brianna here has been working on the case statement. She's done a really great job of pulling all the information together and getting that put together. I've been having conversations with some of our larger businesses in the area and getting some support. I have 2 tentative commitments right now to help us with the campaign. They're very excited about this, and we're hoping to get a few more. The plan would be to go public and live with the whole campaign. I would hope mid to late October. I want to wait until we have a couple of those big donors though lined up before we do that. So tentatively that's the plan, but I will keep you updated on how that's all rolling out. And I've had inquiries from a few different developers about the project. We had quite a few when we first went public with the project. There are 2 that have stayed in touch with me that want to know how things are going with it. So when we are ready to discuss that as a board and where we want to go with that, I will be sure to bring that back to you. Any questions on that? Okay. Yeah, I did new business twice. I meant to move the 2020 budget stuff to new business. So I don't have to talk about that again. Just another note about about across the street. I got an email yesterday from Paul Farnham, who owns In Motion Design, who's currently our leasee. He gave me a laundry list of things that need to be done. I caught a sense of frustration from his email. I'm gathering the last owner basically didn't pay attention to anything. He wants to know when we're going to make all these changes. And I said, well, I have a board meeting tomorrow. Let me just, talk to them. We have to take a look at our budget. Of course, we want to make sure it's safe and, for everybody. The biggest issues are the lights in the walkway. I guess only one of them works. So I'm going to talk to George Carnreich, who has sort of stayed on to help us with oversight of the building as sort of a caretaker. So he probably, I don't know if he has this, but I'm going to talk to him later today to see if he can just get those bulbs replaced. And I guess the door of InMotion, it closes hard or fast or something. And so he had actually already gone out and gotten a quote to fix these hinges. I think when we get back together with finance, I'd like to just delve into this a little bit more, because we're going to have to take a look at what needs to be fixed this year. Having it just like we have the other building that we own, what are we going to keep in there for property maintenance for the future? But I just want to make you aware of those couple of things. And he's also concerned about graffiti and people hanging out in the alley. He said he's gone to the mayor before, he's gone to the police, nobody does anything. We could probably talk strategically about some things we can do. Hopefully fixing and updating the lighting might help with some of that. But the graffiti on the wall and stuff like that, I don't know how to fix that right this second, but open to discussion and questions or conversation about it. And just, I don't have an answer right now.
Carrie, I think just that speaks to the importance of moving, the hotel project forward, having someone in there, from a maintenance standpoint, from a cost standpoint, we don't want to have to deal with graffiti in a vacant building or mostly vacant building for a long time. So the more we can do to keep the project moving forward, the better position we'll be in.
Thanks. Okay. And the last item I just wanted to note was that we have listed the building next door for sale, the Creative Works building. So Pat McNeil is who helped us with purchase of our building across the street. He works for the Parker Walsh team of Keller Williams. So we have gone ahead and moved forward with listing him as our agent. He does have it posted a listing price of $325,000. In terms of what we are still liable for, we still have a Strategic loan that we're paying down, and it's about, I think it's about 170 that we still owe on that loan. So we definitely want to make sure that I know we're never going to get back all the money that we invested in this project, but I think again, DCC's mission was to get that building, fix it up, keep it, make sure it doesn't get crumbled and turned into a parking lot. We did that. We just want to make sure that we're not going into this upside down. So he feels like it's a good, reasonable price. He did a tour of the building. He's had a couple of people inquire with him about it. I made sure that the board knew. I made sure that the people in there knew that we were putting this up for sale. And that's it. And that's all I have.
Right. Guess we'll throw it out for any other questions or comments from anybody before we look to adjourn. Not motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. This is Mary.
Mary.
I'll second if we need it.
All right. I always think it's silly to motion to adjourn, but I guess we have to make sure no one else has anything to talk about. But yeah, with that, all in favor and have a great day.
Bye, Carrie. Thanks.
Thanks,